The HoloGraphic universe, a theory of recursive selfhood. The mirror of manifestation. Imagine the universe not as a solid object, but as a holographic, a projection where the inside is the outside, where depth is merely a trick of perspective. In this framework, what we call reality is not the primary event, but a reflection cast by a greater self existing in another realm of density and dimension. We are not the source. We are the echo made flesh. The macro self, let's call it the source pattern, exists in a realm where thought and manifestation are simultaneous, where possibility and actuality collapse into one another. This greater self desired to know itself, to experience the crystallization of its infinite potential into finite form. And so it projected downward, creating layers of itself that would experience separation in order to later discover integration. We are that projection, the micro-self. Avatars wearing meat and time, believing ourselves to be the players when we are, in fact, being played by our own higher hands. The feedback loop of being here is where the theory becomes radical. The connection is bidirectional. Just as a character in a dream affects the dreamer upon waking, leaving residue, insight, emotional imprint, our collective decisions here reverberate upward. When we choose compassion over cruelty, creation over destruction, awakening over sleep, we do not merely improve our local conditions, we upgrade the source pattern itself. Consider, if you are the macro self dreaming itself into limitation, then every breakthrough you achieve here is a breakthrough for the whole. Every lesson crystallized in the micro realm becomes permanent acquisition for the macro self. The avatar that learns to love unconditionally, that transcends fear, that integrates shadow, this avatar returns to the source pattern not as a failed experiment, but as completed data, as evolved code. We are not separate from our higher self, suffering in isolation. We are the front lines of its evolution, the leading edge of its becoming. The mission, Infusion. The theory proposes a specific developmental imperative, the infusion of micro with micro. This sounds paradoxical until you recognize that micro operates on multiple scales simultaneously. The individual human is micro to the collective. The collective is micro to the planetary. The planetary is micro to the solar, and so on, up to the macro self itself. But equally, within the individual, there are micro-selves, the fragmented aspects of psyche, the subpersonalities, the wounded iterations of self that split off during trauma, the past life residues, the ancestral echoes. To infuse the micro with the micro is to integrate these fragments, to bring the shattered pieces of the avatar into coherence so that the signal broadcast back to the source pattern is clear rather than noisy, harmonic rather than discordant. This is the crystallization of lessons. Not merely learning in the abstract, but embodying, making the lesson so dense with presence that it cannot be unlearned, that it becomes structural to the self. When this occurs, the macro self receives not just information, but transformation. The oscillation of consciousness. We do not hold steady states. The theory suggests we oscillate, swinging like a pendulum between the lower self and the highest self, between the contracted and expanded modes of being. In moments of fear, rage, addiction, and unconscious reaction, we collapse toward the lower self. The avatar operates on autopilot, running survival scripts, believing itself to be separate, threatened, small. This is not failure. This is the necessary compression that creates pressure for growth, that generates the friction required for crystallization. In moments of flow, love, creation, and awakening, we expand toward the highest self. The veil thins. We remember, sometimes briefly, sometimes durably, that we are more than this avatar, that our choices matter beyond this realm, that we are participants in a cosmic feedback